Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Alarmix channel. In this video, I am going to be giving you my 23 huge tips to get better at Apex Legends. Many of these things that I'm going to be talking about in this video are things that Apex Pro players practice on the daily. Also sprinkled in will be some pretty general first-person shooter tips, along with some ways to just absolutely win a very high percentage of your gunfights. So if you're ready to learn about this game and to get better at it, these 23 huge tips should cover quite a large percentage of Apex Legends and the strategy behind it. But everybody, right before we get into it, there's kind of a big problem. 82.2% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is just completely insane. If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, help me lower the percentage on this. Hit that subscribe button. And now, my friends, it is time to get into 23 huge tips to get instantly better at Apex Legends Season 7 and seasons beyond. Alright, everybody, my first huge tip here, always be looking for what you should have done better and could be doing better. So say you're flying into your game and you land at your building and 3 other people land there. They get to their guns, they shoot you. You had no guns, so a lot of people would be quick to say, you know, there was nothing I could have done there. I had no chance, which that might be true. Maybe you could have done nothing better, but really a huge thing to taking that next step in your game is to always be thinking, hey, what could I have done different in this situation? Or maybe could I have done something different preparing for this situation? So say 3 people landed at your same building. Like, could you have free locked and seen that those 3 people were going to that building, and then maybe went to a building where there were no people, or maybe even a building that had a teammate? I guarantee if you die, or even if you win your game, there's always gonna be something that you're doing wrong, and actually finding that thing that you're doing wrong, or finding the many things that you're doing wrong, that is really gonna be a huge thing in taking that next step. My second big tip for you is always have a plan if you were to get shot at right now. So a lot of times you're not going to hear the footsteps of the enemies. You're not going to get any real warning that you're about to get into a gunfight. Of course, that is especially true because of the Apex audio. But if you play with that mindset of if you're get to shot at right now, what's your plan? Are you going to move to cover? Maybe you have a teammate that's a Gibby and he has his bubble. Getting caught off guard in this game is such a huge game destroying thing. It's always good to have a plan. If you're going to get shot at, what are you going to do? It's really just interesting to do when you're actually playing in that mindset. It just makes the game so much easier to play. That's actually a huge thing that I've been doing with my game lately. In some part of my head or subconsciously, I'm always thinking, hey, if stuff goes wrong right now, what am I gonna do? I guarantee if you apply this to your game, you're instantly gonna get better. Just give it a try. My next tip for everybody is to remember the dropship line. The dropship line is the line that's, you know, this ship that everyone jumps out of actually follows through the map. So even after you drop into your match, you should be remembering, hey, the dropship took this path, and as you're actually flying to your location, you can free lock and see where a lot of squads are going. Even as you're in the dropship, you can look to see where other squads fly to get a really good idea of where they're actually going to. So guys, if you can do your drop right, and if you can remember where everybody went, as you're playing in your game, you can get a pretty good feel for where a lot of squads should be. And this is actually a pretty good tip for the 20 bomb. If you're trying to find 20 people in a game, or even just trying to get high kill games, you should probably know where the squads went so you can know where to rotate and find people. Moving on to my next tip, this one is going to be do not force gunfights. So say there is a squad on high ground or a squad that's kind of just bunkered down in a building. Just because there are enemies, that doesn't really mean that you have to engage and force a gunfight. If you're moving into a situation that involves enemies, if it doesn't feel right, your squad does not have to engage. Choosing whether to engage or to not engage is a pretty huge thing in this game. This is going to depend upon things like how good your squad actually is, if you guys are well equipped, how good and how hard is the squad that you're going up against trying. Like, even for example, if you're sitting behind a piece of cover and you're in a gunfight with another squad, there's no reason that you have to go out of that cover and sit out there and shoot at an enemy until they go down. While you're shooting an enemy, if anything seems kind of horrible or like you're gonna die, you can always go back behind cover, hit your heals quick, and try something else quickly. Say maybe you peeked a head glitch and you got shot at. What I do personally is I'd maybe hit a quick shield cell, or maybe not even hit that shield cell, and quickly go pop out from some other cover and try to get the upper hand on that gunfight. So yeah, never feel like you absolutely have to push an enemy. Keep on trying different things, and once things feel right, like you're not gonna die, then you can strike, follow through with that kill, and then from there, you will have to make the decision on what to do next. Moving on to my next tip for you guys, this is also a pretty big one. Have a positive mindset, for Pete's sake. So I'm just gonna tell you guys a quick story. The other day, I had no friends online that I could play with. So I went to the Apex Discord server. I found a couple of teammates, and there's this one specific guy. He was a Wraith main, and I could tell this guy was a pretty good player. Like, he would run off on his own and, like, squad wipe. But there was one thing with him. He did not have a very positive mindset. Like, he was just talking about how trash Apex is, just how trash his experience is. And then a lot of times he ended up to, like, kind of fall away from the squad. Our chemistry, it was really, really bad. The communication was absolutely horrible. I mean, this guy was such a just good guy, just such a skilled, good player. And even though this guy was an absolute G and pretty much everyone in the squad was, I mean, probably other than me, we just kept on dying and we absolutely could not win. And we pretty much never made it to the top 10 squads. My personal opinion is if you have a negative mindset when you're playing Apex Legends, it's going to be pretty much impossible to improve, to have fun, to get a lot of kills. Having a positive mindset when you're playing this game is absolutely enormous. Moving on to my next tip, I'm actually going to talk about high ground here, but not just getting the high ground Anakin. Something more specific here, do not give up high ground. So getting high ground is kind of a general tip. It depends on the situation if you can actually get high ground, if it's actually feasible to go to that location and decide if you're going to live through it and actually how you're going to do it. But once you actually get to high ground, I see a common mistake with a lot of players to where if they get an enemy low that's on low grounds, they'll actually drop down from the high ground way too early. Guys, what I'm saying is if you actually work hard enough and do what it takes to get the high ground and get the advantage over the other players in the area, do not be too easy to give it up. Keep your high ground unless you have a pretty good plan to finish off another squad, or make sure if you're dropping down from high ground, it's just for a good reason. My next tip for you is to get good at a specific drop location. So I think it's very good to get good at a drop location or many drop locations, because say you're playing ranked, you're going to have an absolute go-to place that you're really good at. So say you're landing in a location that you've already landed at, say 200 times before, and then you're going up against people who have only landed there 10 times. You're probably going to know the best places to go to get the best loot and the best angles to take, the best doors to take. Guys, Apex Legends has 3 enormous maps now, and unless you're constantly playing this game, you're not going to know the ins and outs of every single map. So just getting good at one place is just going to make things way more simple. I also believe that having a drop location that you're really good at is going to improve your Apex Legends skills all around. You're going to learn what it's like to drop as fast as possible, get to loot as fast as possible, and you're going to learn how to strategize. My next tip for you is always be aware of everything that is happening around you. So even if you happen to get into a gunfight with another squad, do not focus too much on just that squad. Always have an eye out or an ear out on the surrounding area in case another squad happens to third party. Focusing too much on one enemy is a mistake I've seen a lot of players make. Always keep your eye out for being flanked, or even move yourself from cover to cover to give yourself that chance at flanking someone else. Guys, I think you get the point of this tip. Just be aware of your surrounding area. To be quite honest, I think this is a more general gaming tip, but yeah, there you go. My next tip for you is to free lock as much as possible. So earlier in the video, I was talking about how you should be dropping and how after you dropped, you should have a pretty decent idea on where some other enemy squads are. But as you're dropping, as you're flying to your location, if you are not Jump Master, you should be constantly free locking and gathering information. I'm talking about this tip right now because it is so important. Even though I slightly covered it earlier in the video, it is very important that after you land, your squad knows about the surrounding squads. I can guarantee you that if your squad was not free locking and then you land, it is going to make the game just that much harder to actually go smoothly. Guys, my next tip for you, when you're strafing, aim to dodge bullets. So, you know, there's an art to strafing these days. It depends who you're going up against and how good their aim is. If their aim is really good, strafing back and forth, left and right really rapidly, that is going to do pretty much nothing. Guys, a lot of times when I'm in gunfights, it kind of depends sometimes, but I can kind of tell if the bullets are going to the left of me, to the right of me, or, you know, of course, if you're actually actively being shot. So if the bullets are to the left of me, if you can actually react, if their aim is that bad, you can go to the right of the bullets then. Or if their aim is really good and the strafing that you're doing right now is not working, you know then that you have to change it up to some sort of crouch, left and right combination, something that's unpredictable. Guys, I'm just trying to point out here that there is a difference between just strafing strafing and actively trying to actually strafe to dodge bullets. Even sometimes strafing and crouching in and out of cover, that can absolutely help so much. Guys, my next tip for you is to play a legend that complements you. Along with this, also it's probably going to be good to play a legend that complements your squad's play style. So ideally, you're going to want to have a pre-made squad and then actually decide what legends you're going to play before you actually go to that legend selection screen. So you can decide with your squad mates who's going to play who. Ideally, maybe not have 3 defensive legends. So you may end up playing the legend that complements you the most, or a legend that almost complements you the most but works well with your squad's playstyle and team composition. There are good legend team compositions that are going to work better and worse than others. It's probably going to depend on the players also, but I'm sure you guys can look up some good legend team compositions. I'm actually not going to talk about any specific in this video. My next tip is to aim for headshots, especially with assault rifles. So I think it kind of depends on if a player should actually be aiming for headshots. If you're at a really long range and maybe you have a gun, say, I don't know, like a flatline that can kind of hit at that range, maybe ideally you're gonna shoot for the middle of the body just to land the most bullets. But I think if you get the chance, say you're at mid-range and you have something like an R301, sometimes is gonna be absolutely crippling to the other team if you can actually aim for and land quite a few headshots. I'm sure you guys probably know, but for the couple of people who are watching that may not know, SMGs have a 1.5 times headshot multiplier. I believe the Hemlock's headshot multiplier was just lowered this season to balance it. Guys, if you're not at super long range with an SMG, if you think you can land headshots, definitely go for it. There is going to be that balance between aiming for the middle of the body and then actually aiming for those headshots. Just know that if you're in a situation to where you can actually go for those headshots, make sure you go for it. My next tip for you, this is quite a huge one. Make sure you and your squad are on the same page. Guys, this is a pretty general tip. This goes across a lot of things. This goes from stuff from as simple as things like legend selection to things like what playstyle is your squad going to play. Are you guys going to be aggressive, going for a lot of kills, or are you guys going to be off looting buildings, you know, trying to play basically like ranked? Making sure you guys are all on the same page and actively working together and sticking together. This is kind of an obvious tip, but yeah, it's going to be big. My next tip is to not feel stuck on your settings. Guys, I don't know if there's any people out there that were like me once, but sometimes once you find your good settings after you start out playing a game, you kind of forget about them. Guys, just remember that settings menu is always there. You can always be adjusting your sensitivity. If something is not feeling right, or if you're not feeling that you're playing to your fullest of potential, maybe it might be worth looking into your settings. Guys, my next tip for you is to prioritize ammo and heals. Throwables, they're really nice sometimes. If you have a couple of arc stars and the right place, you can make some really good things happen. But one of the biggest game destroyers in Apex Legends is running out of ammo or heals. If you run out of ammo or heals, I mean, in some situations, it can mean you're absolutely dead and have zero chance. Making sure that your base ground of ammo and heals is covered before you move on to things like ultimate accelerants, thermites, arc stars, and frag grenades, that is going to be essential. One of the best pro player tips that I can give you guys today is create a numbers advantage. So this is going to be things like creating 2v1s, 3v2s, whatever you can do to have more people on your team in that gunfight versus the other team. So a lot of times, this is going to mean doing things like throwing down an airstrike to separate the other squad mates, or like with Horizon's ultimate, you can throw down that black hole to actually block doorways and tunnels, or your squad can just be sticking close together and actually find an enemy that has went away from their squad. There are so many ways to create numbers advantage. If you can do that, it will make things so easy. Everybody, as I'm recording this commentary in Season 7 of Apex Legends, I think the Trident is strong and that you should use it. Now, I think the Trident is strong and you should use it because while you're in it, you do not really take that much damage, especially if you have a good driver. If you're moving fast, and even if you're going from like cover to cover with the Trident, this thing is not a death trap. It should not be the reason you should die. Using the Trident to get better positions on the enemies, also using it to get from gunfight to gunfight faster, so you can get in more gunfights, get more loot, and get better at the game faster. It is okay if you disagree with me here, but I do think the Trident is a good thing to use. I do not think you should be afraid of using this vehicle. My next huge tip for you is to peek cover correctly. Do not peek out of the same piece of cover in the same spot more than, you know, once in a row. Do not do it twice in a row. I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory. This one's pretty obvious. This is a pretty general shooter tip. But if you have the ability to peek from different spots behind cover, it's gonna make it so much harder for the enemy to get the first hit on you. And inside of the peeking cover tip, to actually gather intel on the enemies, I don't just go out of cover, sit there, find the enemies, and then shoot them. What I'll do is I'll peek out of that piece of cover, maybe from the left side. I'll just quickly peek it to where they cannot shoot me because I did not already peek out of that piece of cover right there. Then I will go to, say, the right side of that cover. I will already know exactly where the enemies are. Then I can peek the enemies and then not waste any time actually looking for them and quickly shoot them and get that first hit off. Moving on to my next huge tip. I wouldn't call this a pro player tip, but if you're at an advantage, say you're going up against some bots or so just some people who you know that are definitely worse than you, if you kill off one of the enemies and, you know, saying it was like the easiest kill of your life and they missed a bunch of shots, if you sit there and kind of like shoot at their knockdown shield a couple of times or you do not thirst them right away, their bot teammates are probably going to be coming around the corner. Me, I think it's the funniest thing to do. If I kill someone who's really bad, what I'll normally do is I'll just shoot them and do a little bit of health to where I know they're screaming for their teammates, they'll come help me, or they're like spam pinging. If you kind of pester a knockdown person and don't actually finish them off, it's a great way to quickly pick up kills and to quickly get those gunfights finished off and get ready for that third party. Say you're playing ranked or comp play, it's quite obviously going to be the best to just pick up that kill, finish them off, and then have that loot box ready for that shield swap. I think if you're playing in pubs, a lot of times it is going to be the right move to not thirst. You should be focusing on the enemies, third parties, or using that knocked down enemy as bait. Everybody, when choosing your weapons, the biggest thing that should go into play with your thought process is how are you going to play? What is your play style going to be for this game? So if your team wants to be some super aggressive team, and I think you guys should kind of decide this before you actually get into the game, being on the same page with your squad. If your squad chose to be super aggressive, do not pick up a sentinel and a longbow in your loadout. Maybe don't even pick up, you know, like a flatline sentinel combo or anything like that. If your squad is going to play aggressive, if you guys are going to be pushing, make sure you're running some close range weapons. But if your squad wants to be sniping, if your squad wants to stay back, make sure you have something for long range. When choosing your loadouts, the most important thing is not what weapon is or weapons are technically the best. I think the most important thing is choosing a loadout that complements you and your squad's playstyle. My next tip for you, this is involving comms. Call out anything and everything that has a high chance to be useful to your squad mates. So a lot of times it seems like a lot of callouts in Apex Legends are just like health callouts and then like callouts if they down someone. But say you're being pushed or say you're healing, a lot of times there are going to be a wide variety of callouts that are going to be extremely useful to your teammates. Do not feel like you're stuck on the same damage callouts or I knocked someone callouts. Guys, make sure you're calling out anything that could be very useful to your teammates. This next tip is definitely a professional player tip. Guys, the most efficient way to heal is a red Evo with a shield battery. So yes, if you're in a gunfight, it's probably not going to be best to be sitting back while your squad mates are fighting, popping a shield cell or a syringe. The golden way to heal is to just rip the band-aid off right away, get that 125 heal quickly with that shield bat, and then get back into that gunfight and help out your teammates. Competitive players and the highest tiers do not mess with the gold shield and then shield cells or syringes. Their favorite way to heal and the meta way to heal is a shield battery on a red Evo. Everybody, wrapping up the last tip. It's not a real tip, everybody. Look out, this one is cheesy, but I do not care. I am saying it. My 23rd tip in this video is to have fun, everybody. Have fun playing this game while you're playing it. Enjoy your time playing it. The best way to get better at Apex Legends right now is to start having fun with it. It's gonna make everything so much easier. So everybody, I really hope you enjoyed this Apex Legends Season 7 tip video. 23 huge tips to instantly get better. If you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. 82.2% of the people on average who watch my videos are not subscribed. If you're not subscribed, hitting that subscribe button would be very much appreciated. And people, that'll be about it for me, The Alarmix, and I hope to see you in another video.